Hi and welcome. I am SAG-AFTRA Dallas-Fort Worth Vice President and Next Gen Performers Co-Chair, Nikki Dixon. Thank you all for joining us for this SAG-AFTRA live stream on YouTube. To stay informed about all of our live stream and video events, we invite you to subscribe to this channel. So you can go ahead and do that like right now. Ready, set, go. Okay, today we have with us American Sign Language interpreters Ashley McHenry and Bob Lopro. As a reminder, today's program is being recorded and you can watch the replay right here on SAG-AFTRA's YouTube channel, along with lots of other content. So today, the President's Task Force on Education, Outreach, and Engagement presents Leveling Up Your Content Creation. The Doctor is In. A conversation with the creators of Riding the D with Dr. Seeds, Sarah Seeds, and Lindsay-Elizabeth Hand. Emmy-considered actor Sarah Seeds, yes, is a vice chair of the National Next Gen Performers Committee. She is on the SAG-AFTRA New York board and is a member of the Television Academy. She's written and produced pilots, sketches, short films, and commercials, and has been in multiple writers' rooms. You can see her in The Mint, American Fango, and Sarah Q. Her series, Riding the D with Dr. Seeds, was featured on Amazon Prime for over a year. I watched it, and is now worldwide on Plex TV. She plays a principal role in the TV pilot Afterlife and recently shot the lead in the film Powerful Stuff. She is attached to 2 upcoming features and 2 series in leading roles, including a dystopian sci-fi written by and starring herself. And most importantly, she's my friend. Lindsay-Elizabeth Hand is the owner and founder of Edge in Motion Productions, a full-service Emmy-nominated production company specializing in one-of-a-kind TV pilots and viral internet content. She is now a 3-time, not 1, not 2, but 3-time Emmy-nominated producer, thanks to her work on Amazon Shelf Life. In addition to producing, Lindsay is an award-winning screenwriter and mother's 2 human children. She is a passionate producer who has a hand in every aspect of production, from the development of the scripts to the logistics of filming and post-production. Thank you for being with us today, Sarah and Lindsay. Let's hop right on this train. Oh, and Lindsay's got to be my friend. So, I mean,
okay.
Yep, we just
can't wait, clearly.
All right, so let's just jump right into it. So, Sarah and Lindsay, tell us, how did Riding the D with Dr. Seeds come about?
Yes, I think I'll take that one. As an actor in this industry, sometimes you feel like the roles that you're getting are 2-dimensional, or the offerings aren't there, or maybe you're really funny and weird like I was and you weren't getting those auditions, even though that's what you got, you know? So I was like, what can I do to make something that showcases like a weird brand of humor that I love, that takes place in my favorite city of all time, New York, my home, my girl. And honestly, the train came very easily. I thought about how, riding the train in New York City is such a experience. And there's a lot of fun characters on the train. Everybody rides a train, from like a business person to like somebody taking their kids to school, to like students, to like drunk people. You know what I mean? Like everyone. And I was like, I would love to make a comedy that has that situation. But it really just started with, because I have a sketch comedy background and an improv background, I was like, let me just do these vignettes, these like quick things of like ridiculous stuff happening on a train. And what if she was a doctor, a psychologist, one would say, and what would she do? So that's kind of where that all started.
So how did she pull you in, Lindsay?
Sarah came to a premiere party for a TV pilot that I produced. That was the first time I met her, and I was like, love this girl. You and I need to get coffee outside of this party at some point. And so when Sarah approached me with this idea, I was like, let's do it. This is crazy. Let's do it.
Yes.
So we initially shot several webisodes on the actual D train. And that's how it all started. And then really, like, we got some attention around it. We got some press around it. And Sarah and I were like, how can we do it bigger? What else can we do? So we did a Kickstarter for a TV pilot version of the idea, completely new content, new TV pilot, still with the same Dr. Seed's character. And we raised almost $30,000 on Kickstarter. So we met the goal plus a little extra. Yeah. Sarah and I were both so stressed out during that Kickstarter.
I lost 5 years off my life, but it was such a great month. And to go back, I mean, the vignettes that we did on the train they were all SAG-AFTRA. Everything was SAG-AFTRA from the beginning. I knew that was important. I used the new media contract for that one. And it was my first time being a signatory producer and creating my own content. Since then, it's been like, I can't even tell you how many things I've used the contracts for, but that was my first foray. And luckily I had someone in the office kind of hand-holding me and showing me kind of the way. And we were able to shoot on the train, which was fabulous. And it went like viral. Some of the clips were like getting a lot of views, and a lot of like people were resonating with the insanity, also the reality of, New York life. And also just in general, like when you're trying to get from one place to another, some people's energies are just like, and some people are just like really chill and relaxed. And what if a crazy, or let's just say a woman who's had a maybe breakdown decides to practice on that train? And like, where does that go? And how can we bring ideas from like childhood that are possibly, borderline inappropriate to bring to a dark comedy? What can we do? So yeah, Lindsay was awesome at meeting. We met with each other. She knew I wasn't absolutely insane because we actually hung out as people. And then she was like, yeah, this idea is great. This is a good idea. I like this. And yeah, so we started with the web version that you can still look up, is on YouTube. And then this next version came about when Lindsay kind of was like, Sarah, this has gotten a lot of attention. And this was with Lindsay's pushing. We should make something that's more narrative, that has like a thorough through of her journey. And how can we do that with even more money? And people are already watching it. So why don't we make something even bigger? And that's kind of how this one came about. So, I thank her for having the wherewithal to be like, let's not just vignettes, let's make a huge, like a half-hour idea and arcs for a entire first season.
So Lindsay was like, let's level this thing up. Like, we're not going to sit here and just sit on this, and look what it got you considered for an Emmy. So, I mean, amazing. I mean,
that's always my goal with every project is like, we need eyes on it. We hopefully get jobs from this. Like, we want to get future jobs from this. So instead of scaling down, I always try to help creators think bigger. Like, who else can see this? How much more money can we get? What else can we do? And definitely for the TV pilot, because we did meet the Kickstarter goal, we were able to build a to scale subway car in my friend Lonnie's studio in Brooklyn. So we built that set. It was a crazy endeavor. I honestly can't even believe we did it because it just was so cool and creative once it was all finished, with like TV screens in the windows. And Sarah wanted to have a real subway pole, which I think you can put together what kind of pole we bought to create that. But yeah, it really was like a leveling up experience, because we got Michelle Cotolo, who is an amazing female director. We got like an amazing camera guy, Seth Hagenstein, and we really just had an amazing team that we could afford, because we raised money to actually shoot this and raise the production value, going from, vignettes on the train to an actual real big shoot with like, 50 people on set some days,
Yeah.
So the Kickstarter campaign, so just for people who might not know or understand how all of that works, is it like simply setting up something that's like a GoFundMe and you just like, hey, this is my project, I need money? Or like, what was the thought behind putting it together? Or how did you put that all together?
Well, Lindsay had done one previously. I had not, which was probably for the best, because I was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and wasn't jaded yet. So I was like,
I was the opposite of that.
Yeah, Lindsay was like, I'm going to France. No, but I was like, so I was like really excited by it though, because I love preparing and having the right preparation and making sure that everything is ready. So we spent a lot of time creating the campaign. I wrote one of my favorite things I've written is our campaign for Kickstarter. You make a video that's like basically saying what we're going to do with the money, what's our goals, whatever. And we had this fabulous thing. I wrote it and we shot it, and it's like one continuous shot essentially. And it was honestly one of the best things. I love it. I was like, I'd give me money. And that's the whole point, is you want them to get an eye view of like, who's your team? How does everyone believe in the premise? How are we all feeling, you know, and where can we go with this? So we had created a really wonderful video. We had a budget for it that we put aside. We had a professional budget done. So we had a pie chart of exactly where everything would go. So we knew exactly where it was going to go. We included the Kickstarter fees. I believe Kickstarter takes about 6.5%, I believe. It might be different now because I know Indiegogo does 10, and this was before Seed and Spark. So it was a different time, the old days. And yes, we even put in like post-production, everything, so we wouldn't get caught up in that scenario that a lot of people find themselves in, where they make something and then they don't have enough for post. And we made sure we had everything that we needed. So that was an experience. And then it was like me going to people that I've never asked help for, or never asked, you know, for the first time, I was kind of out there saying like, you know how hard I work, I had acted in a bunch of things, but I was like, this is my first real foray into like from the ground up creation and making it. And I had a lot of wonderful, beautiful people in this union, especially that were very open, especially the women. NIWIFT was sharing it, like all these like great groups of women actors, New York actors were really sharing it and getting us a lot of stuff, and our friends and family, which blessed them.
And
we
had an executive producer, David Russo, who gave our biggest chunk to the Kickstarter. So he's amazing and has been on so many projects with us. He's incredible. So I think definitely, like, if I were to give someone advice who's thinking about doing any sort of crowdfunding campaign, before you launch that campaign, try to find some people in your life who, whether it be your parents or your best friend or some guy you met at a restaurant, like whatever it is, find key people who you know are going to give maybe slightly bigger chunks of money, so that throughout your campaign you can kind of space it out and time it out. Because most campaigns, you raise a lot of money as soon as you launch, and then you raise all the rest of the money the final day while you're panicking because you haven't raised all the money yet. Which definitely was the case for Sarah and I, where like we raised a whole bunch of money, and then at the end it was like I was in France seeing my in-laws, just refreshing the Kickstarter like at some godly hour, like hoping that we would get the final chunk of money. So definitely like try to plan it out. Like, who do I know who's going to help me along this journey? Because of course your friends and your roommates will give like $25 or $50, but you know, if you can try to find big supporters in your life who are willing to kind of give you bigger chunks, that also really helps.
Awesome. And also be open to like the flow of everything. Like things are going to be coming in at different times. It might not be exactly what you thought. So I think that's kind of the key, is like being open to whoever. Some people are going to be incredible. There was a stranger who remained anonymous that donated like $2,000 one day. And you just were like, what? You just don't know who you're reaching or what, especially if you're a niche, or especially if you know your vision really well and your branding is very succinct. Some people are going to be drawn to that, and they're going to be giving you funds for things that you did not expect. You're like, wow, you know? So yeah, recommend it.
That's awesome. No, thank you for that, because money is the biggest, I think, obstacle that a lot of people face whenever wanting to create their own content. So the story, right? The story, you wrote this, Sarah, all you. So what does it mean to be, I'm hearing the term flexible writer, like, and that you wrote the second season in 2 days, the second season, not the second episode, the second season. I need to hear about that.
Okay. Well, you know, when you're I think like any writer, you know, so in between season 1 of Dr. Seeds and even season 2, I had been in a writer's room in between. And I also was so engrossed in the world of Dr. Seeds, and me and Lindsay had planned out every episode for the first season and beyond, you know, nebulously for season 2 and onward, especially when we made our pitch deck. And I was like, you know, I love this world so much. I'm so excited with what else could be in the underground world of Dr. Seeds. You know, there's a tax man who lives under the steps of Grand Central. And what does that mean for taxes below ground? And how fantasy, how in reality are we going to be? And it was just really fun. And once you're kind of in the zone and you're in that world, it's so much easier to write for that character. Like at that point, I had lived in that character. I had been that character and I had played it. So to write the second season was like, it was like so wonderful and so on a roll with that. But like the ideas come from, you know, you really just have to think about not just environmental. Hey, sounds of New York. Not just environmental things. What a good cue. Also like A plot, B plot, you know, the grand scheme of like what's happening in her romantic life, what's happening to the people around her, what's happening to her practice below ground, but also what's the B plot. So once you have the B plot, you know, you kind of know what to do. So that's kind of how I banged it out. And Lindsay was wonderful when I brought her the second season, which could be also a half hour. So we were, again, for flexibility, if we're going back to flexibility, I wrote the first pilot or the pilot to be a half hour, but I wrote them in vignette chunks so they could be cut up in smaller bites, which actually ended up being how they were picked up. So we had two versions.
You ended up, I think they were what, about 9-minute episodes or so?
They're about 5 to 6 each, because that's kind of the sweet spot. And then it was about a half-hour pilot. So it was just really crazy to take. And Lindsay was wonderful because when I was writing the vignettes or like the different, it's not a vignette because it's an overarching thing, but I was writing the different scenes and what each episode would be. They were in a totally different order. And Lindsay was like, I think it's stronger if we have the support group come in this point where I was like this. And I was like, never even thought of it that way. Love it. Like, of course I was like, I don't know. And then then as a writer, you have to be like, this isn't my baby. This is something I'm creating and it's collaborative. And I have to make sure that it's the best that it can be. And I'm not going to be withholding of getting notes from someone I hired, love, trust. Give me those notes, girl, and take them. So I did. And I think it just made it so much better. And then that's why I think also I was able to write the second one and know that it could be a half hour or it could be, which it is, will be season 2 cut up. Mm-hmm. So just being flexible.
So how did you help Lindsay in guiding Sarah's stories? Like,
oh my God, I could talk for hours about flexibility in creators, because me as a producer and an owner of a production company, this is my main interaction at first is with other creators. I think Sarah is a wonderful example of my ideal type of creator. You know, you have to know on some level that you're hiring a producer for a reason. It is not that it's like my way or the highway. It's never like that. But like I give advice about scripts, about budget, about, you know, how are we going to shoot this? How are we going to cast this specific thing? You know, and so I'm not giving this advice for fun. I'm giving it because it's going to down the line make it so much easier for our shoot. Like I always compare a shoot to a wedding, where your wedding should be well planned. Everyone's invited. You know what kind of food you're going to eat, you know, the schedule, because everything needs to be scheduled and organized down to a T so that you yourself can enjoy the wedding. So it's like that for a shoot, where you need to think about every single thing that could go wrong, because the show must go wrong is my catchphrase. And, you know, sometimes when you are, especially a new creator, if we're talking to people who want to try to figure out how to level up their content creation, you know, flexibility is key. You got to think about like your budget. How are you going to shoot this? Where are you going to shoot this? The logistics of having an explosion on set, the logistics of having a fire on set. These are all things I've had to deal with as a producer. So like when I say to someone, is this thing in your script worth another $20K to the budget? Usually they say no. You know, so
unless it's a poll, and then it's definitely yes.
Unless it's the subway poll, and you will spend money on that, and it's worth it. But yeah, definitely my biggest advice is be flexible and like work with your producer on like, how are we going to get the best bang for my buck?
So you're talking about when, you know, things go wrong. Like what, can you give us an example of like what went wrong, something that went wrong, and what you did to pivot and to like keep things going? That's a good question, and that's not scripted question.
Oh, help us all. Lindsay, you might want to take this one, or I can do it too. I have a couple.
I feel like I can take it.
You can take it.
You know, definitely building the D train was a huge ask of anyone. Clearly we're paying people, so it's not like I'm asking people to like build this train for free. But definitely I could tell the first production designer that we hired, who's no longer in production design, so I don't feel bad sharing this. He seemed increasingly worried and stressed out. And my way of firing people is really to label how stressed out they seem and kind of give them an out of wanting them to quit and see if they quit. So that's really what I did, where we just sat them down. We're like, look, you seem extremely stressed out. You haven't done any of the things that you said you were going to do so far. Like, do you feel like this is too much for you? How are you feeling? He's like, yeah, I mean, honestly, I want to quit. I'm like, okay, well, why don't we quit now so that we have time to find someone new to build this giant subway car.
Wow.
And then we did, and we found someone new, and we built it. But because of that firing, it messes up the timeline. So we were literally Sarah and I finished filming one day. We literally hopped on the subway and went to Brooklyn to help the production design and all the art direction team people finish the subway train because it was not finished. And so we still
she was decoupaging, y'all. She was decoupaging.
I was spraying stuff, you know, so we were still working on that till 2 or 3 a.m. and we had to be on set the next day. But you know,
on our train set.
When you're a content creator like Sarah and a producer like me, it's like sometimes you got to get down and dirty for the things that you're trying to make, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
Absolutely. Wow.
And honestly, it's not necessarily wrong things, but just like anything else, from the even beginning, we were like, we're going to shoot on the train. We have because I know a lot of the rules about sticks on the train and a SAG film production, educational, like, can you use this or that? But I also knew that the firefighters had a D train on their training site that they'd used to let people film in. Right when we got our money, they stopped doing that. So I was like, cool.
Yeah.
Love that. So then we went to the train museum and which is, by the way, they're a beautiful place. And I can't wait to come back to them and shoot something else about it on the train, possibly season 2 with an even bigger budget. It'll be lit. But at that time, even with the amount that we got, it was just not worth it to spend like thousands and thousands a day to use this train. So then Lindsay was like, we could green screen, we could build our own like cool train set. And look, a lot of creators would have gone like, no, this is what I pictured. It was going to be on the train. It was going to be like, because I did, that's all I had in my brain was that it was going to be on. But then you have to go, how can I make this? And will this actually end up being a wonderful move and make us stand out, which it automatically did. So instead of being too precious about my idea, which a lot of people are, and I don't blame you for that, they're like, no, this is what I had envisioned. I can't. I'm not saying budge and change the integrity of your film or production, but I'm saying like pivot. Like if we hadn't pivoted, we wouldn't have this gorge, dope train set that we had, where we had someone like a guy was spray painting it with like street spray, like graffiti. It looks pop art. It looks dope. It looks so pop. And the screens in the because I was thinking about how she's like unhinged and it's kind of taking place in her mind. There's a canned audience, but it's real. It's on the train, but it's her version of the train. So we had windows with flat screen televisions of the train movement going in all different directions. Like it just made it so stylistic and so fun. And again, if all that hadn't happened with the real train, the train museum, or the firefighters, we never would have been there. And like, what if I, as a creator, would have been like, oh, I can't do this. Like, that's not what I pictured. That's not what I wanted. Like, I can't imagine. So thank God Lindsay had some ideas and brought me there. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So what other, I mean, you're talking about the train now, right? So what other like special effects and things that, you know, besides the pole that you had to have, because I knew you had to have what did you have to have on like for this train to make it real? Like I love the graffiti that you had on there. I mean, that street art made it super authentic, but were there any other things?
Right. Because I'm very pop art. I'm very influenced by many different cultures. I'm a gamer. Big time gamer. That's why you have a Mortal Kombat sequence happening on the train. So there were certain things that had to be there that were just like, also we had some really beautiful things done by our production designer. Like there were 2 PAs we had opening and shutting the doors, like, ding, ding, you know, but they're off camera. So it looks like these sliding doors are just kind of working it out, You know, there was like movable parts that were just gorgeous engineering, like fantastic engineering. And then for the chairs, that's another one that was a little bit of a moment. I think Lindsay knows this.
Let's see what happened with chairs.
I'm still traumatized about the chairs, but honestly, Sarah did have very specific stuff for the visual effects that Jeff Rabenak, who was also our editor and one of our associate producers, he like hand drew all these graphics and effects, like when you see like the video game stuff and the blurred out toys and other things in it. You know, that was Jeff Rabenak, like meticulously shot by shot, frame by frame, like painting and After Effects, a lot of these effects.
Amazing.
So yeah, he spent a very long time on it just because like we were like, it's gonna look great. He's like, it will look great. It's just gonna take me forever.
But honestly, he did it so fast. Bless him. Yeah, Jeff is dope. But yeah, for the chairs, basically, we were told that we were gonna have chairs, obviously, on our train because it's a train. And then we get there the night before, and there aren't any chairs. So I guess it was just a whole thing because there was a lot going on, and we were like, well, what do we do? And we looked at a prop house, but it was like I'd have to put a credit card down for like $5,000 to just get 3 rows or something like that. I was like, no. So then this is where David Russo, the magic David Russo, I think is watching this right now, our executive producer. I was like, he lives in Jersey. There's Walmarts. I haven't, we got this. So we called David and I was like, buy folding chairs, like the crappy, like black, just folding chairs. And then I got the color palette of the D train and texted it to him. I was like, buy spray can paint of the exact color of the D train, that rich orange and brown of the 80s. Yes. And let's do it. And so we were on the roof also while we're finishing up, spray painting these chairs so the next day they'd be usable. But here's the dope part. Because they're so manipulative and usable, we use the same shot. It's the same exact corner of the train, but because we could move the chairs in different ways and different setups, it looked like we were shooting at different angles of the train. So it actually worked out really well. So There you go.
Well, okay. So Lindsay, I don't know, were you involved in the casting process at all? I mean, let's talk about that because, it does come down to the people now, right? So you got the set, you got your money, now you got to hire the people. So how was the casting process, Lindsay?
It was a couple of different things. So I do a lot of stuff at Upright Citizens. So a lot of those comedians that are in it, like Rashida Crockett, they came from me taking classes with them at UCB, me being in shows with them at UCB. And then separately from that, our director, Michelle Catolo, is also a casting director. So she pulled other amazing people. And then on top of that, Sarah, of course, is so connected with SAG-AFTRA and has been for years. So she was like, and we need this person and this person and this person. So it was definitely a group effort of definitely trying to make sure that the cast looked like New York City. That was a big thing for us. I personally didn't want to see a train full of white chicks. So we really made sure.
Why not? I mean,
nope.
I don't.
We wanted it to look like New York City because this show represented New York City. And, when we shot this, I don't feel like it was such an outlandish idea, but when we actually pitched the show on the Warner Brothers lot to the Wayne brothers, and they were like, this feels like New York City, and we feel like you guys really represented New York City, and we appreciate that. We just live there, man. Was great for the part,
Yeah. Shout out to Dorian Robinson, right?
I was just about to say my little boo-boo Dorian. Okay, yeah. My best friend for 10, 11 years now. I cast him. I immediately cast him as Man in the Yellow Hat, who's like my boo-boo in arms. It's just like real life, to be honest. We're BFFs. But I also wanted to make sure, not only did I want to cast my friends, but I want to cast the best people for the role, the best people for the role. And either I had worked with them on set before, so I knew their capabilities, or we brought them in and we got to know what they were capable of. But just like Lindsay said, we made sure to call in a diverse pool because first off, the pool is diverse, call them in. Also, our friend groups are, and also New York is. So as long as you call in a good diverse pool, the best people will be the best people for the part. We didn't really have an idea, this person has to be this ethnicity, this person has to be this. It was just the best people because we called in a diverse pool, got the roles. And it turned out to be just like New York, dope as hell. So that's why we did it. So it really worked out. And yeah, Lindsay, me and Michelle were like the casting people. We were just so obsessed with everybody. So we wanted Method Man for the train conductor, but that didn't work out. But it was scheduling. We tried, dude. We tried. We actually got all the way to the point where we were talking to him and he was like, nah, I'm in another movie or something. And I was like, I want you to be the train conductor, dude. Can you imagine Method Man? Anyway.
I mean, I just, never mind. I'm married. But anyway, about that. I mean, Method Man, if you're watching, no, I'm just kidding. So let's talk about SAG-AFTRA, right? So that's why we're here. We're here because of SAG-AFTRA. So how did SAG-AFTRA and other unions support the project? Lindsay.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, a lot. I mean, us just doing this podcast shows you that they continue to support this project and support Sarah and all the things that she creates. But definitely, I feel like they really helped us and were sweet with us when we were doing the contracts. And I know, like, sometimes as a new creator, like, you know, if anyone's watching this, like how to level up their content, like maybe they're nervous for the contract stuff. And I feel like when you get a good rep, they really work with you and try to explain like what you're missing, what you still need. And Sarah does it. Sarah does the contracts all the time. So she's great about navigating all that. But yeah, they have nonstop, Sarah, remind me, they did something with the SAG Foundation for us that I'm blanking.
Yeah, they tweeted it out. They did a whole thing about like women in film, and you know, let's there's this project happening if you guys want to support. You know, it was great, and we actually used at the time there wasn't a real contract that covered both like a new media and a typical network television contract. But because of our budget, we were like, we kind of want to use that network one in case it gets picked up by a network. And then at the time, we were the first production ever to use this Chimera project that bridged both the streaming and the network television contract together. And they did it because it was a discussion we were having. And Rebecca Damon, shout out, made sure that went down. She was fabulous. She former national vice president of SAG-AFTRA, former New York president. And yeah, now she's a member of the staff and she's killing it. So anyway, shout out to Rebecca, because I feel like she was able to help me get the right tools and talk to somebody so we could make a contract that made a lot of sense. Because at the time, this was like when we fully shifted over, and you know, now we're ahead of the curve in terms of SAG-AFTRA contracts, in terms of streaming, and even influencer agreements and stuff like that. But SAG-AFTRA has been very supportive. Very, 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 very supportive. And if you guys want to make sure you're SAG signatories, it takes no time at all. And you can do it from the production center on the SAG-AFTRA website. Highly recommend. And they list all the contracts as well. So
that's awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah. So anybody go out to the SAG-AFTRA website if you have any questions on contracts. They will be answered. Yeah.
And no question is stupid. I emailed dude, my SAG rep, the first time, especially for Dr. Seeds or whatever, like, God bless Kamal Talbot, because that man showed me the way, because I was emailing him like, I just don't want to do anything wrong. Or we did, and he's like, yeah, that's great. You did it great. I'm like, okay, so can I? He's like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, okay, let me figure this out. Perfect though. Wonderful at talking to me, and literally no question is too stupid. And also don't ever feel scared to call them about something that might not be what you wanted it to be. Like if you were involved in a production and you need some navigation, you know, maybe you did something you feel like wasn't 100% correct because you're still learning, give them a call, ask questions. Like they're not going to be like, they're going to tell you what to do. They're going to tell you how to make it better. Because we're not doing rocket science. We're making art, and let's make it good. And let's make sure everyone is treated fairly. That's the whole point. So the union's here to guide us, and that's what we need to utilize it for.
And speaking of making art, you women, Sarah, Lindsay, you also said you had a female director. Is that like, how was this, the female empowerment, the leadership on this? Sarah, I'm gonna give that one to you. Like, how did it feel to just like bring in Lindsay, who was this phenomenal producer that helped you just level up, right? You get this great director, like how did it feel with this female project?
I always just feel like, for lack of a better word, game recognizes game. You know, so if somebody is someone you want to work with, and somebody that you really vibe with, and just gets not just the project, but gets you as a person, you know, and is great to work with, oh my gosh, like sign me up. Like Lindsay was a no-brainer. That was the fastest I've ever been like, that's who's producing it. That's the one. And then for Michelle, you know, we met her after we had done the initial vignettes. We were like, we need to level up. We need to get a really great director that gets comedy, that gets all the wonderful things that we want. And so I had heard about Michelle, and I'd seen some comedy foot things that she had done. And I was like, and it was very important to me to have a woman, female director, because I think we can only lead by example. I can sit here and talk about all the things I want to be different, to change, to this and that. But unless I'm doing it, what am I doing? So let's lead by example. Let's not hammer everyone over the head about everything, but let's just make good work, and that will follow. Progress follows good work. So with Michelle, I was like, I'm just going to get a beer with this boo-boo, and we're going to talk, and we're going to talk about Dr. Seeds, and we're going to talk about what makes us laugh and who she is as a person. And it turned into like 2.5 hours, just me and her at a beer garden in Queens or Brooklyn or something. And I was like, yeah, she's in. She's in. That's the one.
And
so
sure,
it was like a good camaraderie.
Definitely when we started pitching and stuff like that, because after we were done finishing the pilot, that was the next step, was to try to pitch it to networks first. So definitely having a female producer, director, and creator writer got us in the room, because that was not really happening a lot then. I mean, they had Broad City, and a lot of people were looking for kind of like the next Broad City. And they're like, yeah, maybe women are funny. Maybe we should have them come in. And so, you know, it was interesting pitching to all these different people. And I think it was because, you know, Sarah really picked out a really strong team of all these people. And, you know, since I've had this production company since 2011, I usually go to LA every year, multiple times a year. Thank you, COVID. Haven't been in 2 years. But normally I go often. So usually I'll message people who I've pitched to in the past at different networks. And I'll be like, I have XYZ. Are you interested? And everyone was always like, this one with the crazy lady on the train. I want to see that one. When can we meet? You know, so it definitely was like weird enough. The team was cool. Like the cast was wonderful. So I think we had all the things in place for us to eventually get it on Amazon, which was like such a huge milestone.
Wow.
Yeah.
I tell you what, like you two ladies have inspired me today to go out and actually try to do some stuff with the stuff that I have sitting on my computer. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, please.
So thank you, Sarah and Lindsay-Elizabeth, again for joining us today and taking us on this wild ride that is Riding the D with Sarah, Dr. Seeds. Let me say that again.
It's branding. I did that on purpose. Just FYI, I did it on purpose.
Riding the D with Dr. Seeds. So on behalf of the team here at SAG-AFTRA, we would like to thank everyone for watching, for taking your time out to be here with us. So special thanks to each of you who have been tuning in each week for our President's Task Force on Education, Outreach, and Engagement live streams. If you have any ideas for topics you would like to see us cover, please email us at pteoe@sagaftra.org. And if you haven't already, while you're here, like I said earlier, subscribe to SAG-AFTRA's YouTube channel to get the updates on the great content we are posting. So thank you all again so much, and have a fabulous day.
Thanks, guys. Awesome.